Good evening, one and all human beings, male, female, football fans, psychos, me. Welcome to Devil's Advocate podcast for a fun stream, and it's not Mark Biggs. That's why we know it's going to be fun. Just kidding, Mark. I'm just kidding. Welcome to your Manchester United versus Crystal Palace League Cup, because I'm the only one that calls it League Cup. I hate calling it the Flaming Carabao Cup. Your League Cup review, where we've beat them 3-0 and actually felt like a 3-0 performance. But I'm your host for this evening. It's Reece from the Weekly Steel Chair. Thank you all for joining us. On with me tonight is Stu, cooking one. Below me is Nathan, and then John, who I've not come across before, but this will be a good laugh. So, John, nice to see you. I'm going to start with you. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Got to about 70 minutes, and I started to make some quirky notes. But I'll let you know what they are all about in due course.
I like it. How you doing? He's thumbs up. He's chilled. He's happy.
Helly, I was just about to say, absolutely. I think it was a great performance tonight. One thing I do feel a tiny bit inadequate now that I don't have a mic as cool as Silk is. So Silky by name and Silky by nature. Clearly, he's looking the part, isn't he? He's looking absolutely. In fact, he's looking like he's ready for interview as a tennis pro.
Yeah, Wimbledon, here I come.
Yes, so I feel slightly inadequate with my little toner mic, so I'm gonna have to get a Rode one like that. I'm gonna have to sort that out.
What I do like, Stu, if we don't mind me just saying something, I like the consistency with Stu. Stu has been sat in that corner for about 5 years.
Yes.
He's been through United managers, he's been through Solskjaer, Ranić, and now, of course, Ten Hag, and he hasn't moved from that sort of triangular area as though he's about to take a corner.
It's my office. It's my office at home. I work from home, and this is my office. So when I come back from the gym at about 7:45 every morning, this is where I hunker down.
You go to the gym at like 6, 7 o'clock.
Yeah, 6, 7 o'clock. And this is actually an old playroom that I've moved into now at the other side of the house. So, and I just haven't really decided to change anything because it obviously brings back a lot of memories from when the kids were small and stuff. But I might change the colour. I don't know. I might get some of my footy trophies out from the loft and put those up over the next few days. But yeah, this is my office. So this is basically where I work. From home, so that's why I've got everything set up here, 3 laptops, that type of thing. Really, so I just chill. But I've got a really inadequate microphone, which is it's just not good enough, quite frankly.
Well, I've got about 2 or 3 in my room, but I'm in my living room, nice and chilled. So that's where I'm at. So hey ho, Nathan, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Yeah, really good. Yeah, nice to got a week off from work this week, so it's been nice to chill out. But
nice.
Yeah, that was a good old night. That was. I enjoyed that. I was down the local for the second time for the match because I'm not paying Sky Sports prices. I'd rather go down there and spend a couple of quid on a pint instead.
Oh,
so there we are. Mate.
Too right. Completely agree. And obviously, Hella's in the comments as well. So welcome and good evening. I'm going to say this now, lads, because normally when it comes to a match reaction, comfortably, when you're just watching them, we haven't played a good game since Barcelona. Let's be real. We haven't played a good game since Barcelona last season. We haven't played well. So coming into tonight's reaction, you weren't expecting a good one. Well, I wasn't anyway. So it's a different reaction. So it's going to be kind of fun. So I don't know where to begin. Like, because it was all round brilliant. All round, it was a fantastic watch.
Let me begin, Reece. Let me help you out on this one. So I've spoken a lot, and John will know this, and so will you, Reece. You probably won't, Nathan. But I speak a lot about complacency in football. And complacency is a dangerous game. It's a dangerous emotion, and I've suffered from it in the past myself, where you're picked week in, week out, irrespective of your performance. You kind of know you're going to take the pitch as a starting 11. And it's pretty dangerous because there are a lot of players out there. And I'm not sort of talking about Manchester United. I'm talking about footballers in general that almost take their position for granted in the starting 11. And you only played about 65, 70% of your ability. When you have a team who want to play football, the actual game itself is relatively straightforward. It's relatively easy. You've got players who are willing to run for 94, 95 minutes. They're willing to do the simple things. They're willing to do the difficult things. You saw Harry Maguire tonight put in a couple of pearlers over to Dalot. He would never do that. He felt in a safe environment back at Old Trafford. Amrabat to his left, Casemiro in front of him. There are some players on that pitch tonight where you won't allow yourself and you won't allow complacency to come in. And you saw a different type of Garnacho tonight. You saw a different type of Palestri tonight. You saw Hannibal kick on again slightly from his performance at the weekend. I thought Amrabat, I thought it was quite interesting. The commentator. Yeah, I thought it was quite interesting that the commentators were saying that all fullbacks like to tuck in the middle now, but you forget that Amrabat's natural habitat is central. That's where he would always migrate to because that's what he knows. And at one point, I think he popped over and he was shaking hands with Dalot, wasn't he, on the right hand side?
Yeah.
But here's the interesting part about that. It's his first game at Old Trafford. He's looking around at the personnel that are on the pitch. Mason Mount, for example, I thought had a great first half, very understated first half. And he's looking at what he can do and what he can't do. And he trusted Garnacho, he trusted Casemiro, he trusted Maguire, he trusted Mount to cover his position when he did go over and solo to Dalot. Look, I'm not a huge fan of that type of play. Unless you're actually in that position that allows you to strike right or strike left. But I thought he looks a player, doesn't he, old Sofian? I have to say, massively.
Oh, he's quality. He's a quality player
on the football, and that really helped Maguire. It helped Maguire settle in from the first minute, having Varane alongside him as well. Onana, I don't know if you noticed, a totally different game again tonight than what he did in Munich. It's again another kick on from Saturday where Johnny Evans allowed Onana to have a more comfortable, more calmer game. And I think, the Maguire-Varane partnership helped that. I thought it was very clever from Ten Hag to make those changes at the right time. Mount hasn't played for 6 games. Let's take him off at half time. I don't think there was an injury. I just think let's see where we are with him. Smart move to take off Varane. I thought Lindelof looked pretty okay at left back. I didn't think he was troubled at all. It's really strange. But what happens in football when you get into a rhythm and you can hit your rhythm after about 5 minutes, which is what we did, it was very, very difficult to break that rhythm. And Palace were kind of left scratching their heads on what they couldn't do. So people will point out it was a weak Palace side. Okay, maybe not. I think it'll be 6 changes that Hodgson will make for Saturday. I think Ten Hag's got an issue. If I'm Ten Hag, I'm Harry Maguire, I'm Hannibal. I'm looking at Ten Hag and saying, "Drop me now, pal," because they applied themselves to a level that we've not seen in the previous 4 matches. Even though I thought we played pretty well out in Munich, we were streets ahead of how we performed in Munich. So for me, it was a really interesting view of football, view of the game. Thought Palestri was I think he's played himself in for Saturday personally again. So I'm really I was really pleased, and it was a pleasure to watch a footballing team again, really, and so.
Yeah, I think one thing I'll add to that as well is I've been begging for it. Is what I said last time I was on. Is I don't care if we are going to win or lose, it happens. So I expect it, but I demand professionalism.
Yeah,
I demand professionalism every single game. Win or lose, I demand professionalism.
Yeah,
and that. Tonight from every single player was professionalism. Tim's on the Amrabat out of position, but he was playing like he was comfortable in position. He was everywhere. I thought, even though he was a little bit crazy lightheaded, because that's what he does, but he plays and he does. I'm talking about Hannibal here. Like Hannibal does the same. Like Hannibal's the same. Like heart in his strings, but he plays with emotion. But he played really well. but Casemiro was completely calm. And I stand by what I said about Amrabat as a holding midfielder. He's my holding midfielder, and Casemiro's my box-to-box player. And I'm not changing my mind on that.
No,
And
I think you're right on that one.
That's how that's how our midfield should be once we're fully fit, like from defence. Garnacho and Palestri don't need to be dropped. Keep those two on the wing for the next couple of games. Don't change them because they actually work. It was good to see wingers actually attack and defend.
I'll be interested to hear John's view on and Nathan's actually on Garnacho because I saw a completely different Garnacho tonight.
That's the Garnacho I've been waiting on because he's quality. He's a brilliant player.
Seen for the beginning of this season, and we didn't see a lot last season. He went through that phase, didn't he, last season, where he was just like a bull in a china shop, and he was just got his head down anyway. Tonight was such a, and I think, look, I've got to say, I think the communication between Amrabat and Garnacho probably helped him with his positional play and when to lay it short and when to have a go at the defender. It's the first time I've ever seen. And this is what I want John and Nathan's opinion. It's the first time I've ever seen him size up a fullback and look at what the fullback's attributes are, and then make the decision on how to play him. That's what I saw tonight. Normally, normally he'll just run it. But I'll be interested to see what John and Nathan think of that.
Yeah, that's what I enjoy from a winger playing there myself. Like that's exactly what I enjoyed. But I'm going to say this as well, and not many people would have saw this as well. But Martial was outstanding for 75 minutes, not 15 minutes, not 40 minutes. He was outstanding for his whole appearance.
He was good tonight.
Best performance in a long time. But all in all, I was happy with that. But you know what? Let's get fired and let's get some more of it. So, John, your thoughts on the performance tonight, and did any player in particular for you stand out that we haven't mentioned?
I mean, I'd like to address some of the things or particular thing that Stu highlighted regarding Garnacho. You could get 20 performances or 20 times that he's played for United last season, for example, especially last season, but even this season, okay, you can even throw in the Arsenal match this season. Throw in 10 of his coming off the bench, 10 where he started. And I don't remember one match where he started where he either didn't get hooked or was lucky not to get hooked. And I also remember many, a large percentage when he comes on and he has an impact. So why is that? Well, it could be that he's a particular player that maybe thrives when players are getting tired, or he's a particularly intelligent player who can pick off certain situations when he comes off the bench. I know his goal was disallowed, but him scoring that goal against Arsenal did not surprise me. But I guarantee if he started the match, he wouldn't have scored that goal. I mean, I know it was disallowed, but you know what I'm getting at. So I do think that, and I don't think it's because he's got the nous or the intelligence. It's not to say that he's not a smart footballer, but I think he's got to grow into that. He's not an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer who's got a knack of, coming off the bench and scoring goals, or even Teddy Sheringham for that matter. So I think it's a case of maturity, and I think it's a case of as maybe even it's a bit of confidence in there, Stu, as well, when it comes to eyeing up the fullback and going, if you could just take stock and go, right, okay, this is what I think is going to work. I'll try it again, rather than sort of blind alleys and frustration and then getting hooked after 60 minutes. Listen, I don't have that many concerns about him, to be honest with you. It's 18 months or so into his career at United, if not even less, really. I mean, it was kind of Sociedad away and Fulham away that he was sort of starting to make a name for himself last year, and that's less than a year ago. So let's keep calm. Let's not press the panic button. Oh no, Garnacho's done, because I don't think that's the case at all. And I'm really optimistic, and I just want to start to see him play well from the beginning. But he is, when everyone's fit and firing, if everyone's playing to their absolute capabilities, he's in the first 11. And I probably would start him on the weekend, on Saturday. It is, isn't it? By the way, I get confused as to whether we're playing Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, or Friday, or whatever, but not nearly as much as confused as I was about the lineup tonight. When I think, is that Lindelof at left back? Is it, midway through the second half? And a few other things that are going on. But listen, you can probably tell for those tuning in from the first 5 minutes of the show where we're talking about Stu's position in his house that we're in a pretty good mood tonight.
Yeah, no, I completely agree on that one. And I did like the highlight there, especially when he said like at full strength, like he still is a starter. He is because he's dynamic, and that's a major difference in a team is if you have a dynamic player. But so is his partner on the right hand side. Like Palestri is also dynamic, and he reflected that.
Yeah,
Nathan,
I'm not as convinced as you two then on Palestri, either short term or long term.
Palestri, I reckon will showcase why. Like the fact, like I think the one thing that didn't do him any good though was he played well against Bayern, then he got dropped for no reason. Like there was no reason to drop him after Bayern, so I feel like he had to work his way back into confidence tonight, and he played really well from that on that right hand side. I think I get where you're coming from, like maybe short to long term. Is he
But Ten
maybe in
Hag
the
wanted to
plans?
sell
But
him, right? In the summer, he wanted to sell
I think
him,
so.
and
But
I don't think he trusts him. And that's the main thing. I mean, he's playing tonight because it's Carabao Cup, and yes, he did play against Bayern, but there's so many things going on with wide players right now at United that Stu and I would have half a chance to get in the team, and if we
True,
were in the team, it would be out wide.
True, but I think the one thing that he is at least doing though is he's at least forcing the manager to potentially reconsider, and that's important about professional footballers. If can they force the manager to reconsider, and I think he could do that.
Nathan, you'd have a chance too, by the way. Sorry, I left you out.
Nathan could.
You and I.
Nathan could. Anyway, over to Nathan. What did you think about tonight's game, and who stood out to you in particular, mate? Who stood out for you?
I think the whole performance was really good. I think Casemiro for me was just unbelievable. I couldn't fault him at all in the game. But going back to Garnacho, I think, like Stu and what John was saying, that dynamic play and that sizing up of the players at the back there, it was just. And what stood out for me for Garnacho was the hunger. He was really trying to impress. He really wanted to be like, no, this is me. This is the player I can be.
Agreed.
I want to be starting every game.
Yeah.
And he was really good at that. And even though sometimes he didn't have to do a lot, but he was always the player that we could rely on in that final third when we needed to get in there. And yeah, I think for me, Casemiro was just absolutely faultless tonight. He was unbelievably good. That was the player I think we were missing for so many years. That sort of pinging around in the area that we needed it to be. But yeah, like Stu said, it was good to watch a game where players wanted to play. That was the main thing. The players wanted to play football. They wanted to prove themselves. And that was really, really noticeable tonight. And wanting the manager to see, hang on a minute, I've actually got a bit of a problem for Saturday now because we've won 3-0 against Palace. We've got to play them against Saturday. Yeah, they might change a few players, but do we need to change as many players? I was surprised to see Onana in goal tonight. I'll be honest. I thought we would have seen. I thought we would have seen that Burundi, the backup, because like we were talking on the preview last night. If Onana goes to the Africa Cup of Nations, there could be a chance that Burundi might not get a start until January. So we need to get him some game minutes. So I was surprised to see Onana play tonight, but on the whole, really impressive performance. And like Stu said, it was just good to see players want to play football and impress.
Yeah, there is one player I'm going to get Stu to talk on, maybe more so during the player ratings, because I'm going to change up it when we get to the player ratings. Normally, Mark does it one by one. I'm doing it totally different tonight because that's how I do things. But I think going goal by goal, there is little intricate parts of each goal that really stood out tonight, and they all have one common theme: Casemiro passing. All three goals, at some extent tonight, involved a Casemiro pass or a movement. And I think that really shows why I want him in that box-to-box role, because the fact he's willing to make that change to his game when he's more of like a sitting player, when ideally I don't want him to be a sitting player. I know, like, yeah, fair enough, he's 30, he's getting old and all that, but this is a guy that's got, as I spoke about earlier on about professionalism, this guy is professional enough where even if he is getting older, he may not consistently be a box-to-box player every week, but he will still force his way into those positions where he is going to get forward. He's going to be that threat in the final third, and he's going to get himself into those positions where he can be a real issue for opposition. But when you look at each goal, it either starts by him or it's finished by him in that sense. So look at the first goal, very good team move. It does feel like it starts from his passing into midfield. The pass from Dallo cuts across is even, like, I thought that was fantastic. Obviously, it's finished by Garnacho, but just from yourselves, like each of you, like for each individual goal, I'm going to ask you all your individual funny moment. Each individual opinion, each goal. But John, I'm going to come to you first. So that first goal, that team goal, your overall thoughts on that one, and generally just how did you feel about the build-up? Because if anything, we haven't had a built-up goal like that in quite some time. And you're also on mute.
As you said, if there's going to be a team goal, Casemiro is going to be pretty fundamental in that. And I like a lot of what you said there regarding him. I was just having a quick look at the 2022 Champions League final, not because I knew that Liverpool lost it, but also because I wanted to see, just to remind myself who was alongside Casemiro in midfield. And it was Toni Kroos and Luka Modric, so a pretty stellar trio. He's not going to quite have that at Old Trafford, not yet anyway. But I was just having a quick look around to see, whether he had sort of some defensive help. I mean, Kroos and Modric were more ball-playing players, but they would often sit deep as well. So,
let him go.
I mean, my memory of Casemiro is that he was a kind of sitting midfielder at Madrid, but perhaps there was a bit more interchanging going on there. And I think the purchase of Amrabat, and I do see him as probably being in that starting 11 that we touched on earlier, meaning that Casemiro can go forward a bit more. I think he's not had the best start to the season, and the Wolves match was just a car crash, and perhaps it was a car crash for him. He was the only midfielder that day, basically. So in his defense, there was no Eriksen, there was no, I think Mount was there, but of course Mount's not really a sitting midfielder. So I like it that we've got now somebody potentially who can help him out there, and that will look at Casemiro scoring these goals. I mean, the goal against Bayern, the goal again tonight. He's got goals in him, and he's a really good header of the ball. Think about the headers he got against Newcastle and Chelsea last year, for example. Just really tough. They're not little dinky headers like he had against Bayern last week. They were really tough ones. So yeah, I'm all for it. I'm all for this slightly more adventurous Casemiro that we might see this season. Plus, listen, he might be on the down, but I don't think so. 30 is not. 30 is the new 35, I would suggest.
Yeah, a lot of people get that. And to be fair, to an extent, everybody plays video games. To an extent, there's some people who claim they don't, but they do. Let's be real. Everybody at one point in their life plays video games. There's nothing wrong with being 30 and getting older, because even when you get to 30, there's some players who have a second prime. Like, it's rare, but it does happen. There's players who evolve their game, but they stay in the game longer, but they change their position, they change their style, they become even more effective. Casemiro has went from a conservative player who can pass a ball, can be very effective, but is an absolute flat track bully who got, I think his best scoring season at Real Madrid, I think was 6 goals all season. Right. And he's scoring goals at us for fun. And it's because he's adapting to his game. He's evolving, he's challenging himself, and he's thinking, okay, if we're not getting goals from the attacking positions, it looks like I'm going to have to step up. And I think that's another thing for this team, where we complain about not having, at the moment, Højlund isn't ready. Let's be real. Højlund isn't ready, but he's at least got off the mark. He's got off the score sheet, but he's a player for the future. Martial, good game tonight. Got a goal. Good. Garnacho, goal tonight. Good. But as a whole, as a team, we need goals from everywhere. Mm-hmm. If Casemiro's chipping in 5 to 10 because he's going nuts for the ball, I'm happy with that. Because if anything, those 5 to 10 could be games from a loss to a draw, could be from a draw to a win, or it could just be it's 0-0 and we're just sticking at a 1-0 win and it's right at the end. It's that importance of a goal. And I just like that difference of Casemiro's play, that he's changing his game for the benefit of the team. And who cares if he's 30? I mean, the only reason I'm referencing 30 is because people use 30 as, we need to replace him. We don't have to replace him just yet.
He could have 5 years in him yet. He could have 2 or 3 years as a box-to-box midfielder and a couple of years as a sitting midfielder. But, no need to worry just yet. I'm not, again, a bit like Garnacho, but for very different reasons. I've not been pressing the panic button like some people have on Casemiro this season.
Absolutely.
The interesting thing about Casemiro and his age, You know, when he was 25, he knew he'd reach 30 at some point. He knows he's going to reach 35, and you adapt yourself as an individual. That's how I kept playing until I was 47 in the West Mids Prem. I kept playing until I was 47 because I adapted, you know, and I knew what I couldn't do. And you can't. The thing about Casemiro is you cannot substitute intelligence with feet. Okay,
Yes.
you just can't do that because intelligence, it's all here. The feet allows you to get where you need to be. That's all it does. But your intelligence tells you where to go. So your feet just get you there. That's all it is. And people don't get that about football. A lot of younger players, a lot of the FIFA generation, think that you can beat 4 or 5 players. You're a quality footballer. You're not really.
Exactly.
You're just as good if you can pass it 2 or 3 yards. But then you've got the intelligence to drop yourself 10 yards into space to receive it back, to then push it another 3 or 4 yards. And that's what Casemiro does brilliantly. And I tend to agree with you, Reece, Nath, and John. I think he'd be better, more box to box. And you sometimes you need a player, a footballer that's willing to take the game by the scruff of the neck, willing to go rogue in matches occasionally, providing, and you'll see Amrabat do this all the time, from just judging by his brief game tonight, where he was all over the place. For a manager on the sidelines, Ten Hag will be thinking, "Oh, me, geez, what am I going to do here?" Sir Alex Ferguson would have, probably ripped him off. Get off. You don't do that when you play for me, but you've got to be able to go rogue, because what that does, that shows you an understanding of the game. So Amrabat's reading the game in front of him. And this is where Casemiro, John makes a great point about the crooner, is one of my favourite all-time midfielders. I think he's terrific. I really do, because he can play a 6, he can play an 8, he can play a 10, equally as good. And you've got Modric and around him. The beauty of that particular trio was that they were able to circulate beautifully together. So if Casemiro did step up, the crooner just pops in behind him. Off you go, Cas. No worries, mate. I'm here. Or Modric, or whichever.
Exactly.
And we will get there with, I think, with the addition of Amrabat as a 6 and Bruno to give him that free ride. And I think you guys are right about Casemiro in the 10th. But the goals that we scored today, in particular, if you watched him, his eyes always on the ball until the strike. As soon as the strike is, he looks. It's a split-second look. That's it. That's all it is. And then as it comes to him, he positions himself. I think he dropped forward 2 yards, or he dropped back 2 yards. I can't remember which. When he comes in, bang, that's it. And the pace is all on the ball, and all he did was guide it home. It was a wonderful exponent of a header. It really was. Johnny Evans' goal was equally as good, actually, at the weekend. The way that he got up, he just looked at it, bang.
He nearly got the exact same if it wasn't for Sam Johnson's save.
Really important the way that you position yourself, that you look at the ball in a split-second look. It's all it does, split-second look. I remember years ago, Mark, you scored a volley at Old Trafford when the Stretford end was being done. John might remember this against Liverpool.
Yeah, when he chipped up the keeper.
Yeah. So he was actually, the ball was coming to over his head, wasn't it, if you remember, John? Yeah. So he's looking back. He looked to see where Grobbelaar was. Split second, one look. That's all it was. And then he knew what he did. And that's exactly how Casemiro put the ball.
Was that mid to late 80s period? Was that the mid to late 80s?
No, 93, 92, 93, 93, 94 maybe.
Oh, so during the start of so in his second spell.
When they were doing, one end of Old Trafford was basically gutted.
I think it was their first Premier League, because we were in the Umbro kit.
Yeah, 2-2 home match, I think.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, you can't legislate for that single look, that split second, and all that is intelligence to understand where you are on the pitch and what you can and cannot do. And that's what it was, and that's what I liked about the second goal in particular, was his movement as an intelligence.
I didn't even need to ask you about the second goal, mate. I didn't even need to ask you about the second goal, because you done it for me anyway. That's even better. You done it. I was going to come to you for the second goal anyway, because I was saving the third goal for Nathan. But I thought that was eloquently put. I think it was brilliant. Nathan, just the third goal, it capped it off. let's be real. Like, we were already coasting the game anyway, but the third goal just capped off really well. It's a nice finish. Just generally, what was your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it needed what it needed to be. We were at that point of the game where Palace had just made some changes and we were starting to get a little bit edgy, and then that third goal just finished it off completely. It was a perfectly professional finish. It needed what it needed to do, killed the game off instantly, and that's exactly what we wanted. Just going back to what Stu and John's football knowledge is unbelievable. Going back to games that are in 93, 94. I can't remember what I did yesterday, and they're remembering goals from strikers in 93, 94.
I remember watching some games back from that era, like of goals, but that one doesn't always stand to me. But that's because there's other ones that come to mind.
I had a VHS tape of the 300 Premier League goals. You know, the first 300. I had that VHS tape, and I must have watched that like 6 times, and I don't remember that goal.
It
was 2-2. It was 2-2. Yeah, Blackmore. No, I probably got the wrong year actually, 93, 94. But anyway,
it is something for you then, Nath. Liverpool were wearing a gopping green kit.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine that. They got 3 massive stripes.
Yeah, that's the emerald green colour, whatever it was.
Yeah, and I think it was Carlsberg, and it was Grobbelaar. I just touching on what Nath says, and he's absolutely right that it killed the game. It was brilliant for us. Did you check Martial's run though? Was to perfection, and his finish. It's a massively difficult finish that was for somebody who's not really played to any level recently. It was a wonderful finish, I thought, anyway, because Johnson's no mug between the posts. He's no mug at all.
It's the thing there about it is, like, especially playing an attacking position for moving into a central role myself. I played wing and then I played midfield. Is when you're an attacker, the one thing that you don't want to lose, forget pace. Pace goes. The one thing you don't want to lose as an attacker is instinct and finishing ability. Martial hasn't played a lot. He's always questioned about work ethic, hunger. Can he genuinely be arsed to play? 4 things stood out for me from Martial tonight. 1, he was pressing both Dean Henderson and he pressed Sam Johnston and he pressed the centre-backs. So that's all in 1. Number 2, he was switched on every time when a pass was near him or moving around rotation. Whenever it was Garnacho coming across or it was Palestra cutting in, he would interchange and go out the wing. Thought that was good, or he dropped back. The third one, he linked really well with the likes of Hannibal and Casemiro, letting them come forward. So he was able to man that position. And the fourth one is he did not stop smiling the whole game.
Correct.
He smiled the whole game he played, and he smiled when he came off.
And that comes back to the point that Stu was making earlier. It was good to see players actually want to play football. So seeing Martial actually play how he wanted to play and smiling about it, it's what we've been asking for his entire Manchester United career. Just be happy to see him. There you go.
Cheers,
there you go. It was just overall. I mean, like you say, Reece, what you said there was instinct. You know, when it comes to, I think goalies and strikers in a game like today is where if goalies need to be switched on at all times, when they're needed, they need to be. And Onana saved near the end of the game when Palace came forward. I think Eze came into the box, didn't he?
He's so good.
And yeah, he's unbelievable. I was saying to a bloke in the pub, he's looking for a big summer transfer. That's for sure.
Yeah,
we're
going to talk about. Not often you get to talk about the opposition in any shape or form. Normally we just talk about ourselves, but just when we go into like player ratings and all that stuff, like I just want to ask, like, what was your overall thoughts of Palace tonight? For me personally, I don't think Palace played bad at all. I thought Palace, despite the changes, played okay. The only thing for them that really let them down is I think it was maybe too many changes where they looked a little bit short of that. As we had that instinct on the attack and we had that threat. I don't think they had a lot of it. Maybe because Roy Hodgson was like, well, it's a cup game. I want to give players an opportunity, which is completely understandable. But it seems like what they replaced their key players with, it took away a little bit of their potency, especially because I think Steve Bruce said it spot on it. I think he said spot. It was either before halftime or he said at halftime. No, it was halftime, sorry. He said the one thing that Palace have got really well is players that can hit you on the counter-attack. They didn't have that in the first half, but in the second half, they really tried. I thought Palace played okay, but the 3-0 scoreline, it doesn't flatter us. We deserved that result, but they played okay.
They played. They were quite naive, actually. Certainly in the first half, they played quite naive.
Mhm.
The one thing what happens when you walk out on the pitch at Old Trafford, you either sink or you swim as the opposition. I've seen it hundreds and millions of times.
Yeah.
But unfortunately for Palace, I don't think they were quite expecting us to start with the kind of ferocity that we did. And we started and we played relatively quickly on the front foot straight away. But what Palace lacked was this certain one or two individuals that have got the time to look at the opposition and size the opposition up during the game. It's something that I was taught very, very young, and I still employ today because I'm a centre half at the moment. I try and size the opposition up, try and find who's going to carry the ball through, who's finding the space, who do we need to get a hold of in the game, etc., etc. And that's what you need to do. And Palace kind of didn't do that today. I think Henderson was a bit of a loss for him, if I'm being honest. Henderson's, look, it doesn't matter what Man United fans think of him. I think he's a cracking goalkeeper. He's a progressive goalkeeper. He moves it quickly. So it was a shame to see him go off, actually, because I think he could maybe have been the difference again. You always have a prime Neuer, don't you, at Old Trafford at some point. It could have been Henderson's night tonight. It wasn't. But even so, I thought that we took control of the game early. But when somebody's got you on the ropes in the corner, he's got his hand around your throat, you've got to do something about it. You have to do something about it. You've got to twist him off somehow. And Palace didn't seem either able to do that or didn't want to do that. They didn't want to kind of put a couple of challenges in. John and Nathan will tell you, I'd go for it. If I was in there, I'd be saying, just get on Hannibal. Just put one on his ankle. Put another one on his calf. Not nice. I'm not saying it's right, but that's what you do. You try and unsettle players, and I would have done that to see what Hannibal had got, because I know by studying him that he's quite a volatile player. So I'm going to bring out that volatility. I'm going to make him do something, and that could change the game because Casemiro then might think, I've got to start looking after Hannibal, for example, or Mount might think I've got to start looking after Hannibal and things of that nature. We didn't really do that. In fact, it was the opposite. Hannibal was putting his foot in, and he was the one that was trying to disrupt Palace. And the other thing is, and you heard it on the commentary, Ayew was just asleep for the first 45 minutes. I mean, literally he had his duvet in his pillow, because he didn't follow Dallo at all. He was just having a kip on the sidelines. I'm amazed Hodgson didn't chuck a ball at him or some water or a water bottle. You're here to do a job, not just in the final third, but in our defensive third as well. And he didn't really do that. So there's a few areas across the pitch where if I was Palace and I was trudging off at half time, I'd be kicking water bottles and I'd be really upset with our performance because they didn't show. I thought second half, they brought on a youngster, didn't they, with about 20 minutes to go. I can't remember his name, but he looked really.
I'm not gonna try. Double band name. I'm not gonna try. No.
I thought he looked really good. I thought he looked really lively, really sharp. He's a big, strong boy as well, and maybe even Will Hughes. I thought when he came on, I thought he gave a good account for himself. He must be about 50 now. Will Hughes. He's been around for years, absolute years. He gave a good account for himself, didn't he?
Yeah.
So I just think, look, I actually also think, by the way, when we scored goal number 2, that was it. I think Palace realised we're not getting back into this game tonight. They didn't score immediately after half time, so we're not getting in the game and we move on. So I thought they were naive, if I'm being honest. So.
Yeah. John, yourself?
A couple of good saves from Onana in the second half. I think that'll do him a bit of good. The clean sheet, I think most of us were quite pleased with how he reacted to the Bayern Munich mistake in a way, the way he fronted up, and his teammates gave him a nice hug, didn't they? And we saw it with De Gea at the beginning of his career, and you saw how excited the teammates were when De Gea made that penalty save with Van Persie 10 odd years ago. Another side issue or another thing as well about Amrabat. there was a great tweet tonight from Rachel Violet. She is the daughter of Manchester United legend Dennis Violet, who was a music
Yes.
care survivor.
Yeah.
And she tweeted, let me just read out the tweet. She said, "Not sure what position Amrabat is playing, but I love him already." Which
well, that's it, isn't
I
it?
think sums it up for Amrabat tonight. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I think you make a good point. You make a good point, John, about Onana, because when De Gea came, I mean, he was 6'1", wet 3, wasn't he? I mean, his goalkeeping jersey was hanging off him.
Yeah.
He just, crikey, could like lift him up, pick him up, and drop him. And
He
he
did
really
put the corner, that's for sure.
didn't he just?
He just left Athletic doing it on the Europa League as well.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
So yeah, it's even bigger responsibility in his hands. Nathan, any closing comments from you about Palace? Anything particular about them that might give you a bit of concern for Saturday?
Not a concern, but like Stu was saying, like when I think it was Hannibal, he got a yellow card quite early on, didn't he? And
Yeah.
Palace should have really capitalised on that. They should have gone, right, either we get him to time waste or we try and get him to react, get him another yellow and then he's off. And that would have changed the game completely. So, but they just didn't capitalise on that. So I think that's going to be a strength for us going into the weekend because they just don't seem up for the fight. So I think that could be something we could look into. But no, I don't think there's any cause for concern for Saturday, in my opinion.
I agree. I think that's fair. We are going to do player ratings. This is going to be fun. This will be fun definitely because for once I cannot be told, oh, you're too negative on player ratings. You're too on. I'm to be fair, I'm very honest. That's why McTominay got a 2, even though we won the other night. But we are going to go through it, and we're going to do it totally different. So it's normally on these shows, fair enough. One person, Whit Brown, gets a player, do a rating. I'm going to do it differently. So I'm going to go, the 3 you guys, I'm staying out of this. It's just you 3. Stu's going to do the defence. John's getting the midfield. Nathan, you're getting the attack. And then I can say Van de Beek did nothing. We'll go with that. Right. So, Stu, the whole defence, including goalkeeper, over to you. And also, as each of you are doing yours, also give me who was your man of the match tonight. Do you agree with being Casemiro or was it anybody else? But on you go.
Okay, so Onana gets a 7 for me. I thought he didn't do much wrong today. I thought he was solid. Distribution was good, nice and calm. Dallo gets a 7 as well, which I'm massively surprised I'm doing that, but because I just don't rate him. Varane, 7. Maguire, I'm going to give an 8. People might jump on me on that, but I thought he was absolutely solid tonight. He played 90 minutes. That bloke has been absolutely castigated, ridiculed, and he still puts on that shirt and put a performance in. And he made a couple of good last-ditch challenges tonight, so I'm going to give him an 8. And Amrabat. Now, you see, Amrabat's my difficult one because
he wasn't really a left back, was he?
No, do you know what? I'm going to give Amrabat an 8 as well because I thought he was just terrific all game. I know a lot of people think it's 8's a bit too steep for Maguire, but you've got to look at the bigger picture with him. You really have got to look at the bigger picture. I thought Lindelof was a 7 when he came on. I thought he was he was excellent at left back. So those are my ratings for the defence.
And your man of the match?
Well, it's straightforward for me, and he gets a 9, and that's Casemiro, and you know he was just terrific. You know, he's one of those performances where I would have been so happy, so relieved if I was Harry Maguire to have that type of performance in Amrabat and Onana behind me. It made my job so much easier, and that's why for the first time Maguire played with everything off his shoulders. And he just played football, and that's the difference. That's why he gets an 8 for me. He just played a solid game.
I think that's very fair. So, John, yourself, the midfield, including midfield substitutions. So you've got the likes of birthday boy Dan Gore, and you've also got Van that people forgot he was still employed. But over to you. Your player rates for the midfield, and do you agree is Casemiro your man of the match, or do you have somebody else?
Actually, that's the harder one to come to, actually, in my opinion. But I'm giving Casemiro an 8, so slightly less than Stu, but I think we're all very pleased with his performance tonight. Hannibal gets a 7. Mason Mount, 6.5 maybe. Van der Beek just put a dash because I think if you barely touch the ball and anyway, but I tell you what, when Al Gore came on, Al Gore, by the way, former US presidential candidate,
Of course, yeah.
He's also someone who said that the introduction of the internet will mean the end of fake news. So that didn't work out. But I thought he did well, by the way, Gore. Coming on, I'll give him a 7, maybe even a 7.5. I thought he looked bright, he looked comfortable in possession. Something I'm always on the lookout with youngsters is how are they on the ball? He demanded the ball a couple of times, but he also, if I once had a dream about playing for Man United, and I just sort of fell over a few times, and I got hooked at half time. And I'm always looking at players to see when they get that first touch, are their legs a bit wobbly, as they would be in front of a packed house. I always remember Eagles. I know we've had a few sort of harping back to former years. But Chris, when he came on as sub, and his legs were wobbling, but he managed to stay on his legs and actually put a nice finish away. But if you watch him score this goal against Everton in a comeback 2-0 down and 4-2 win. And by the way, if that was the third goal, I don't think he scores it because the pressure would have got to him. But being the fourth made it a little bit easy for him. But as you can tell, I'm in a good mood, and it was a comfortable afternoon, or comfortable night, I should say. In fact, so comfortable that midway through the second half, I started to make notes, knowing that I was going to be on with Stu, and I started to make notes as to if Stu was a football manager, a Premier League manager, which one would he be? And I went through a couple. I was thinking, well, Roy Hodgson was right there in front of me, but I was like, nah. Then there was Sam Allardyce, I think would be an obvious one. So, by the way, I'm thinking about all, especially notable Premier League managers. Can you guess which Premier League manager I plumped for in the end? A notable one.
Sean Dyche.
But that's a good shout. But he's Sean Dyche-esque. But
no, he's full on. He's full on.
No, the guy I've chosen. I've got a better one, I think. Stu, you better have a guess, as it's you. It's not a current one. So it's a.
No.
He's well known. Well known.
How far back?
I'm thinking you're gonna tar me with the red nut brush.
There you go. He's got it.
Yeah, I thought you would. Yeah, I thought you might tar me with the red nut brush.
I mean, we do have this for professional purposes.
I can't wait for the new season. Absolutely looking forward to it.
Okay, you fucker. I was young.
Doesn't matter. Anytime it needs to be done, it's getting used.
How Redknapp's dog called Stu?
I can't remember. I can't remember his dog
thing, wasn't it? Anyway, that's my take on our midfield.
I agree about Dan Gore, and it's funny you should say that because I look for exactly the same. You fizz a ball into a young player making his debut, absolutely fizz it into him and see if it sticks. Yeah. And I thought Dan Gore was right. That Chris Eagles one, I've got a feeling it was Watford, but it could have been Fulham. But I remember the goal.
Chris Eagles was away to Everton. We were 2-0 down.
I remember the goal. Yeah, I remember the goal. His
legs were sort of wobbling as he's trying
they were, yeah. That hairstyle was as well, wasn't it?
Hairstyle,
So
we don't want to remember that part. That's the only part I don't want to remember.
Man of the match, by the way, I'm going to cop out. Just the team. I thought everyone was sort of 7 or 8 tonight, in my opinion.
Don't have an issue with that. I gave nobody man of the match against Burnley. So
reasons.
I could live with that. I could live with that. Nobody. Yeah.
Totally different reasons. And Nathan, yourself, your ratings on the attackers and
difficult one.
So I'm gonna go for an 8 for Garnacho because again I think he just really wanted to play tonight. I think that was the main thing, and I'm gonna go for 8 again with Martial because purely because he just wanted to play, and I'm gonna go for a 7 with Pellistri because he wasn't impactful in most of the attacking, but he was there and he wanted to be there, and I think that was really important. So, but I agree with the man of the match for me. I think Casemiro was just absolutely faultless. Can't fault him on anything at all. So for me...
What would you give Højlund, Nath? And there's a reason for my question. And that question is, the show the other night, I kind of was fairly critical of him. Not because I don't think he's a bad, because he isn't. is a fantastic footballer, but he's got to learn quickly about where he should be living as a number 9.
No, I agree. No, exactly.
So I liked his running tonight, where he tried to get in between the two centre halves and the fullback and that, but he left himself with no space. So he wasn't moving the fullback or the centre half out the way to create that little space to get his turn and his shot. And he's got to learn stuff like that. But I do quite like him. I just think his movement's not quite there yet. So I'll be interested to see what. And I know he's young. That is massively critical, I know. But he's going to be one hell of a footballer. He really is.
Yeah, the talent is definitely there. And once, like those little things that you pointed out, once he starts making those little bits of pockets of space for himself, not for anyone else, as long as he's making it for himself, so he's got that football in mind, the ability to make that space and then do something with it. That's the most important thing he needs to learn. And I think they were mentioning it in the commentary in the Burnley game, is that Rashford and Højlund are sort of working off the pitch to try and create. What that means, I have no idea.
Nice, because if I was Højlund, I'd have had Rashford, in a headlock at half time at Burnley, because
I know
any chance you could cross the ball, mate. Any chance. I mean, I am there.
Just a quick word on Højlund.
Interestingly enough, the Dalot cross, which nobody expected he'd dig out at Burnley. Second half, late in the second half, it was a wonderful cross. It was on the byline. And that's why I was critical of Højlund. But then I thought to myself, well, there's no way you'll be expecting it, because the ball just doesn't come in, does it? But that's why a striker, you've almost got to embarrass yourself, actually, with something like that. You've just got to make a play for the ball, even if you miss it by 10 yards, because you won't miss it next time. It's all about timing and instinct. And I don't normally listen to Dean Saunders too much, but he was a phenomenal finisher in his day. But I've always said, and Reece will back me up on this, because he's listened to me drone on about this particular subject for quite a while, so is John, that it's all about instinct, and that's the 10% you can't teach. You cannot coach instinct, and I think you're born with it. Ruud van Nistelrooy knew exactly what to be, where to be at the right time. One of my favourite ever strikers. Phenomenal striker.
If you want to look at instinct at its best, it's the Brazilian Ronaldo.
Oh God, yeah. Well, I mean, you're in a different league there, though, aren't you?
But he's the best. He is categorically the best striker I've ever seen live.
Oh, he's phenomenal. Phenomenal.
In person, he's the best striker I've ever seen.
We had a bid
accepted for a whole show on
17 million quid. 17 million quid. We had a bid accepted for him when he was at PSV.
Okay.
Standing
ovation, of course, at Old Trafford as well. One of the only players, if not the only player.
I was there that night, John. I was there that night. It was the finest hat trick. I've seen a couple of great goals scored by Real Madrid. One by where Redondo absolutely destroyed. I think it was
that was sort of Raul, the Raul.
And then Raul scored.
Let's be real. Redondo did just destroy 4 defenders. Redondo made us look like amateurs at that night.
He did that night. But that one particular turn was wonderful. It was where our seat is. It was kind of right in front of us, and I'm like, wow, that's just.
Especially Raul off the byline was so off the byline. It was so good. Like that whole movement was perfection.
Yeah.
Ronaldo's second goal.
The one where wide right.
And it
bounced.
Right? Yeah, it's when it bounced. Yeah, I mean that killed us. I mean that's the goal that I always say. That's the best goal that's ever been scored at Old Trafford against United.
He was amazing.
Barthez maybe could have done better at the near post, or
possibly.
Barthez was never saving any one of those shots that night.
Rooney scored one against Milan about 6 years later. Kind of similar, not quite as early and not quite as impressive maybe as Ronaldo's, but similar, the one against Milan was quite similar. Just a quick word on Højlund, by the way. Scandinavian, I think Denmark counts as Scandinavia, coming off the bench in September and wearing gloves to replace Martial, who we'd associate with the glove wearing for sure over the last sort of 5 or 6 years. Was an interesting juxtaposition I didn't expect tonight.
Coming from Norway, you're absolutely right.
Sorry, is he from Norway? I thought he was Danish.
Not Norway, which I think he's Danish actually.
Scandinavian.
He's one.
Scandinavian. But you're
he's-
absolutely right. He should be coming on
They are
with shorts
Scandinavian
and
anyway. They're all
t-shirts, shouldn't
He should be coming on with sleeveless. Yeah.
He should I'll just wear my vest. No problem, lads. He should be
needs
walking
to-
on like that.
He needs to listen to Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who said that real men don't wear gloves on a football field. He said that. His own words. Yet he's a bit hypocritical because he wore gloves a few times himself.
He did, didn't he,
Yeah.
Zlatan? He did, yeah.
Yeah, but he is that pinnacle of brilliant hypocritical man that you can't argue with. And to answer your question, it wasn't a squirrel, it's my psycho cat. She's a psycho.
yes.
But
Trev.
all in all, lads, I thought tonight's been an absolute brilliant show. And it's even better, you get to reminisce with some fun moments, but it's a show for positivity and in a right sense, because we needed a genuine response in the right way where we won against Burnley. Let's be real, we did win, but it was an awful performance. It was awful. There's nothing positive about that game except the fact that we got the 3 points and a goal. Tonight was, even though it was against a slightly weakened Palace team that still at least came and gave us a game to an extent, that is what we're looking for. We need to build on that. There is no excuses. Like, there's no excuse. It's been seen. It's the best performance since Barcelona from last season.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
We can't, these players can't hide from it. Like, they can't hide from that. So we have to showcase it Saturday. Then we have to do it the following week. Like, there is margin for error, understandable, but there's no getting away from this. And I think the good thing about it is the players who aren't going to be who aren't bothered, aren't interested, are going to see their minutes completely diminished by players who genuinely give a damn. And we saw that 100%. Tonight.
Yeah, I believe you're right.
I tell you what, it's probably the most difficult, which is a good thing. It's the most difficult lineup choice for Ten Hag in a long time. Certainly this season, and maybe even longer.
Yeah.
Just because he's got quite a few options. One or two players are coming back injured. Players are playing well tonight that you probably wouldn't necessarily have in the starting 11 against Palace, but they now put themselves in the frame. And we've got 5. This is probably the beginning, or along with Burnley at the weekend. We're now in this run of 5 or 6 games where we've got Palace at home, Galatasaray, Brentford, Sheffield United, and then Copenhagen, where really we do need 5 wins from those 5 games. And then we've got City at home, and we'll talk about that in a few weeks. But those 5 games, really, we can put ourselves in a good position in the Champions League group. We can get ourselves back up in and around the Champions League qualification spots with wins there as well. And suddenly things are much rosier as we head into the autumn.
I absolutely agree.
I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, no arguments for me. I agree with Trevor's comments as well. They're all spot on. Gents, before we go, any closing comments from yourselves and socials before we wrap?
I can be abused at Stu Woolley if you so wish, so see fit. If not, no. I think I think it's been a great show. Love working with John and Nathan as always. Reece, it's average at best. No, I'm only joking. No, I love working with you guys.
I think these two guys on my left here. I think Stu and John's footballing knowledge is it's got to be something to admire. I watched the Old Trafford Fury, the 2008 versus 99, and John, some of the things you were pulling out of the bag there was unbelievable. I'm really impressed with your knowledge
massively fun that was, wasn't it? Massively fun that was.
Really good show, and some of the things that he was pulling out was just unbelievable. There you go.
It's because he's always talking. He's always talking.
No,
and
good show.
Really John, yourself, sorry, close a comment for yourself. Thank you, Nathan. Good comment.
Thank you, Nathan, and obviously thanks Stu and Reece too for your company this evening. But yeah, just a bit of a plug for the book. Even the Defeats is available in all lousy bookstores, along with lousy websites such as Amazon, and wherever you get your lousy books from. You can lounge around and relax and read Even the Defeats, just because basically there's not been a lot of fun stuff going on at Old Trafford in the last 10 years, but there was plenty of good stuff in the previous 26. I will say that. So check out Even the Defeats. Stuff. Oh, and also on Twitter, I'm at JSilk, but you can also follow me at Talking Tennis TT, and give my YouTube Talking Tennis a subscribe as well.
Absolutely. You can find me here now and again, like whenever Keane needs me. I'm like the one you draft in. I'm the real killer of time. You can also find me at Devils Rising on Twitter. I'm the only one, and also the Weekly Steel Chair on YouTube as well for like all round wrestling content that I enjoy. So you can find me there. But in the meantime, to all the positive ones, the miserable ones, the toxic ones, the multiple influence crap. This has been a positive stream that's all round entertaining, and here's to more. So thanks everyone for watching. This has been Devil's Advocate Podcast, your Manchester United versus Crystal Palace match reaction show, and we will see you next time. Arrivederci.